అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. నమో నమః. గురుభ్యో నమః. టుడే ఈజ్ another good day for all of us that we are going to have a very interesting topic from Dr. Krishnamurti Subramanian garu. I will introduce him briefly after reciting Vande Mataram and then chanting Prarthana. I request Krishnamurti garu, Krishna Kumar garu to recite Vande Mataram, please.
सर्वेभ्यो नमस्कारः. वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं सुजलां सुफलां मलयज शीतलां सस्यश्यामलां मातरं वन्दे मातरं शुभ्रज्योत्स्ना पुलकितयामिनी पुल्लकुसुमितां द्रुमदलशोभिनीं सुहासिनीं सुमधुरभाषिणीं सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं.
వందే మాతరం. ధన్యవాదములండి కృష్ణ కుమార్ గారు. Now let us request గోవిందరాజు గారు to chant Prarthana, please.
Sarvebhyo Namaskaraha. Let us start with a brief meditation. Sit straight with your back straight. Gently close your eyes and focus on your breath. Now gently open your eyes and let us now chant Om 3 times. Om. 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 Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigun Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashunvanmutibhis Sidasadanam. Om Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namaha. Om Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinamavitriyavatu. Om Shri Mahasaraswatyai Namaha. Gurureva Gati Gurumeva Bhaje Gurunaiva Sahasmi Namo Gurave Na Guruh Paramam Shishurasmi Guruh मतिरस्ति गुरौ मां पाहि गुरो ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्
హరి ఓం. ధన్యవాదములండి. Now I'll briefly introduce the speaker. Dr. Krishnamurti Subramanian Garu is popularly known as Subbu. He is born and brought up in a village in Tamil Nadu. He obtained his BTech in mechanical engineering at OU Hyderabad, and after short work experience in India, he joined MIT USA. You all know it is a world famous premier institute where he obtained his master's and PhD degrees. And overall, he worked for 40 years in the industry, leading research, innovation, and new business development. He has helped to establish technology centers in many places in the world, including USA, Germany, India, China, Brazil, Japan, and many more places. And now at present, he is in USA. And early morning there at 3:30, he has got up for us and then got ready, and that is a dedication you can see from his side. He has also mentored and guided many professionals and young people from many nationalities and across the globe. Now he is the founder and president of STIMS Institute of USA for over 12 years. He is also the mentor and advisor to a leading research center at IIT Madras, India. And Dr. Subramaniam is a fellow of American Society of Mechanical Engineers. He is also the fellow of Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and he has received the Distinguished Merchant Medal for Manufacturing and Productivity in the year 2020. And he has published three books, one in the year 2000, another in 2013, and one on spirituality in practice, based on Vedic philosophy, again in 2023. Now, this talk will be connected with this latest book, that is Spirituality in Practice. Dr. Subramanian Garu was introduced to the studies of Vedic philosophy by listening to lectures by Swami Chinmayananda during 72 to 77 when Swamiji visited MIT. Subramanian Garu, as a graduate student, helped to organize the facilities for Swamiji's lectures at MIT. Since then, for the last 50 years, he has pursued extensive self-study and his blog site, Spirituality in Practice. You may go through that. It has got more than 230 essays and all short essays and easy to read. They cover a wide range of topics and thought-provoking ideas. Title of a few essays are, for example, where is the stop sign when you are flying in the sky? Like this. A brief experts from his recent book titled Spirituality in Practice, that you will be briefed today. And Subramanian Garu lives in San Jose, California, with his wife, Durgaji. They live near his son. Oh, that is a great thing. Living with family and children. Also living in Bay Area. That boy is also living in Bay Area. Subramanian Garu is also the president of American Association for Social Advancement of India, a NGO based in USA, supporting education, healthcare for women and elderly and skill development for rural poorer women. Yeah, we would like to know more about this when time permits. Recently, he has joined our group. We have been in touch with him for the last 1 year, and he has taken a few lectures for our course for young CCSD course for youth. And now he has joined us, the Veda Samskruti Samiti organization team, as honorary editor. We publish a magazine, e-journal, Vedavani e-journal. Now he is an honorary editor. He is going to release next four issues. Let us all welcome him and then request him to go ahead and cover his webinar. Subramanian Garu, please.
Thank you, Dr. Babu. I hope you all can see my slides now.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, and thank you for your kind introduction and the invitation from Veda Samskruti Samiti. And my namaskaram and pranam to everyone, including Prabhakar Rao Garu and all the other elders there. Let me just start with a couple of prayer songs and then get into the presentation. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Te Namo Namaha Annapurne Sadapurne Shankara Pranavallabhe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Viksham Dehi Cha Parvati Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Again, thank you everyone. Actually, this talk, Vedanta for Daily Life, is also termed Spirituality in Practice. I had chosen this title because we all know about Vedanta in one way or the other. In fact, anyone born and brought up in India is introduced to Vedanta as a way of life in one way or the other. However, what we know so much and such a profound knowledge of Vedanta or the essence of Veda, it is not only the end of the Veda, Vedanta, but it's also the essence of Vedas, become profoundly applicable every moment, every action, every day, and in a way of life, which is truly spirituality in practice. Even if we know that implicitly and in some sort of a intuitive way, it becomes useful to put it in explicit language and explicit terms so that we can also communicate it to the next generation and the generation that follow. And that's the intent of this presentation. And with God's grace, well, let's hope we'll be successful in that goal. So the outline is very simple. First of all, one of the foundational emphasis in Vedic philosophy, no matter where you read, in all aspects of it, will be reflecting on the mind over matter. We'll spend a little bit time on that. Then, in one of the webinars some time ago at VSS, the question was asked, what is that you have to learn from Upanishad, knowing which you don't need to learn anything else? What is the true knowledge and what is all else? We'll discuss a little bit more about that. That comes to the very essence of Vedic philosophy codified in the Mahavakyas, or the grand pronouncements, one of them being consciousness is Brahman, which is very much applicable to any one of us as individuals. In fact, every one of the four Mahavakyas mean the same thing, but presented in different words, but they all come down to the same principle that Prajnanam Brahma and Aham Brahmasmi and so forth. We'll see what is the connection between that and our daily life. Then we will discuss the question of if Brahman enables everything, then how do I relate to Brahman? If I'm existing enabled by Brahman, then how do I relate to it? And that question can be addressed relatively simply or easily, provided we practice something called objectivity and non-attachment. The very objectivity and non-attachment which we seek to understand Brahman is also the very essential need for any activity, any professional activity, any form of education, or any form of being peaceful, successful in a coexisting manner with the rest of the nature. And in order to gain those objectivity and non-attachment as a way of life is why we have these unique practices of yoga and meditation. And by using that, thereby living true to the Mahavakya is what we can call as enlightened living. And we'll present a few examples to bring this all together. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll pick it up at the end of the presentation and make sure all your questions are covered. I'd like you to look at this picture for now. This is mind over matter we are discussing right now. In this picture, it's in a living room or a family room of a person. Somebody is doing yoga and we see the woman practicing yoga. We think that her mind is focused on yoga practice because we see this posture generally associated with someone practicing yoga. We also believe that the dog in the background is sleeping, and we think it is sleeping peacefully. And we believe it's a real dog. It's not a toy or something like that. And it can indeed sleep peacefully despite all that's happening around it. And the plants are also growing, but they're growing in a certain direction, probably towards the sunlight. Our mind, the observer, the mind of the woman, the dog, all have their own perception, feelings, and thoughts. And plants also have their own perception of sunlight. That's why they're growing in that direction. Now, if you go to this next picture, here we see the same picture, but except in a TV screen. As soon as we see the picture in the TV screen, our mind changes completely, because now we are expecting something else to change in the picture the very next moment, because that's what we expect from a TV screen. So our perception of what we see and what is different before what you are seeing in the previous picture. I use this as a thought experiment to explain or can communicate that our perception, our emotions and thoughts change constantly. They are like the waves on the surface of the ocean. Anyone who thinks that he's going to sit in front of a beach and expect the waves to stop and become quiet is obviously on a foolish errand. But The reality that the fact that they're changing constantly itself is a beauty of nature, and how do we take advantage of that and surf the waves is really spirituality in practice. Now, let's spend a little bit more time on the aspect of mind over matter. Let us look at this rope here. Now, is it a rope or is it a snake? I don't know. I didn't tell you. I kind of prejudiced the thinking before by saying, let us look at the rope here. But if I didn't tell you, it almost looks like a snake, and a certain sense of fear grips our mind. But as soon as we know it's a rope, the fear goes away. In other words, fear and bravery both reflect our mind and thinking. By the way, all these examples that I'm using are all from Vedic philosophy and Vedic scriptures in some place or the other. Here is another picture. This is of a bird inside a cage, except the door is open. This is a famous analogy from Adi Shankaracharya's life history, where he went to debate with Mandal Mishra. Before that, he stood in front of the house, opened the cage, but the bird would not fly away. He said, our mind with preconceived notions is like the bird in a cage with its door wide open. Our mind is such a beautiful instrument, capable of thinking so many things in such a matter of seconds or fractions of a second. How we engage them, how we put them to practice is really mind over matter. This is what Swami Shankaracharya calls by saying, Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. That is, I am that blemishless Brahman, not the person identified with my name, form, individual, material features, and all the grand introduction that Dr. Babu gave a few minutes ago. This is a very important, very fundamental concept. Once we get that idea that I am part of the waves, that is all the descriptions of who I am, but I'm also part of something beyond that. And that beyond is the Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham. Once it becomes second nature to us, then it becomes a very stable, quiet platform on which we dance or we perform and surf the waves on the surface. Now, I just missed one thing here, so I'll go back to that. So our perceptions, what we see, our emotions, and our thoughts are all channeled and processed through our mind. Looking from outside, observing this interaction of mind over matter is yoga. Yoga is nothing more than yuj. The root form is yuj, which is union with the self. Consciousness enables this ability to see objects, feel the emotions, think of thoughts, and our ability to look from outside. It is also Brahman. It is also called Prajnanam Brahma. We went through these examples. Now, the Mahavakyas here are, first of all, now I'm looking at the axioms of this Vedic philosophy. Axiom, the word means that which is a self-evident truth. When I say that, you know it implicitly, either accepting it or through reasoning. Some of the things are, I'm standing on earth, may appear to be a statement of fact, but I'm held by gravity and hence I'm hanging upside down on the surface of the earth based as something that I understand through reasoning. But irrespective of whichever way I come at it, it's a self-evident truth that gravity exists, holding objects together in wherever they are existing. Similarly, the Veda Vakyas are axioms. They can be either understood implicitly or through reasoning. We shall go through some of the analysis going forward. For example, here we have a deep ocean, and enabled by the deep ocean, on the surface of it are the waves. The waves can be different kinds. They can be shallow waves at the beach, or they can be very turbulent waves in the time of storm, or it can be some quiescent waves deep in the ocean. But no matter where you are on the surface of the ocean, there are waves. But both the waves and the deep ocean coexist, and the deep ocean enables the surface wave to exist. So behind the diverse and plural aspects of the universe, there is a singular element or feature or identity called Brahman. This Brahman is identified as consciousness So we say Prajnanam Brahma. Since I am enabled by consciousness or force of nature, I call, the Mahavakya says, I am Atma Brahma. Since everything is enabled by some aspect of nature or the other, and hence Tattvamasi, you and the universe are integral in each other, you are Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi is an extension of the same thing, that is, I exist as Brahman. The I here is not just the material object, but Tad Brahman Ishkalamaham, that eternal, indivisible, omnipresent, changeless Brahman. Now, Kathopanishad says, when one realizes this divine spirit within, all the confusion of joy and grief disappears. That is the beauty of Vedic philosophy. Because we are all called Amritasya Putraha. We're all children of immortality. Where does that immortality come from? It comes from the very fact that one who realizes that we are all enabled, and the enabling forces, the Brahman, exist, are changeless, eternally, omnipresent, forever, indistinguishable from one person to another, one situation to another. That joy, that understanding leads us to believe to situation where the confusion due to surface waves such as joy and grief disappears. Now, this is also further reinforced by what is called the true knowledge and all else. By the way, avidya does not mean ignorance. Avidya only means all other than knowledge. Just like karma and akarma, the action and non-action, vidya and avidya means knowledge and that which is not beyond other than knowledge. So what is that knowledge that's explained to us it's very well described in Kathopanishad, which says, I, the chariot, the sense organs are the horses, the connectors are the rein through which I get the signals, and self-control is a controller through which I operate, and yoga is the software through which I manipulate the rates, and life is the path or application through which I manage this. All are enabled like the surface waves. The enabler of all, the infinite, invisible force of nature, like the deep ocean, is Brahman. So all else is other than this knowledge. This implicit understanding of this knowledge that all are enabled by the invisible, eternal, omnipresent nature or force of nature or Brahman is the true knowledge. Spirituality, then, people can ask, what is spirituality? Spirituality is nothing more than being rooted in the spirit, the driving force of Brahman. It is just similar to when you say reality. What does it mean? It is not fictional. It's something rooted in real. Similarly, spirituality means something rooted in the spirit. Spirituality in practice becomes life driven by true knowledge, as stated above. And spirituality practice or understanding of this true knowledge that are enabled by invisible, eternal, omnipresent force of nature or Brahman can exist in us within a second or for an action or for a few period for a moment of time, or it can be a lifelong mission. That depends upon our ability to surf the ocean waves. Now, what is this Brahman? Let's spend a little bit more time so that we can put it all together in the next few slides. Brahman is defined as eternal, omnipresent, objective, unattached, incognitive or subtle, substratum, identifiable only through its effects. It's also defined as that which enables the fire to burn, that which enables the water to wet, that which enables the ice to wink, so on and so forth. Now, if you think about it, in this lake or a river, there's a boat with all the people in it, with their safety equipment, with paddle. All of this is cognitive universe. They're all governed by connectors, which we'll talk about in a moment. They're all governed by subjective versus objective. Because if they're not objective and paying attention to the balance, they're going to be subjective and wanting to be going one way or the other, the boat is going to capsize. So they're not going to do that. As long as they're objective, the boat is floating. But how is the boat floating? Is it just somebody holding underneath or holding it? No. The scientists would call that as buoyancy. Or in physics class, we learned that as that which floats is enabled by a phenomena called buoyancy. Can anybody give buoyancy in a plate? No. Can anybody describe buoyancy? No. But it can be defined, measured, and described. In fact, all phenomena of nature can only be described through quantification to some extent in the limited context of the experiments by the scientists. But they merely exist. So all phenomena of nature, buoyancy, gravitational field, electricity, magnetism, life process, blood circulation, osmosis, all of them, that which make capillary effects, all of them, that which makes a fire to burn, water to wet, wind to move, ice to wink, ears to hear, all these things we can relate to it intuitively as the phenomena of nature. If you understand, if you use this understanding, then we could say Brahman is a singular noun for all forces and phenomena of nature, known and unknown, that which merely exists, that which enables the cognitive universe. The cognitive enabler and the cognitive enabled coexist. I can recognize buoyancy only through the floating objects. Is the buoyancy there before? Yeah. Is the buoyancy there after? Yeah. But how do I relate to it? Only through its effects. So the Brahman is that which is understood only through its effects. I'm saying using this as an example does not mean all the other intellectual in-depth discussions on Brahman is different from this. We are using this only to explain in a practical way so that we can apply it in our day-to-day life. With due reverence and respect to all the other things that already we know, we learn through the various scriptural writings. So we already understood first axiom of Vedic philosophy is everyone and everything is part of the same creation, Tattvamasi or Prajnanam Brahma. And we are all enabled by the phenomena of nature or Brahman or Sarvam Brahmamaya. The second one is how do I, as an individual, get connected to all of these things are external to me? It is through my knowledge, bias, and ignorance. Sattvam rajastama iti trigunaha nibadhanti mahabaho dehe dekhinam avyayam. Dehe, the dekhinam, avyayam. Dehe is the body. Dekhinam is the one inner person. Avyayam, incessantly, without any change, without any interruption, without any disruption whatsoever. That connection is what we call life. We perceive that when knowledge is dominant, it's tranquility. When bias is dominant, it's turbulence. When ignorance is dominant, it is inertia. We went through a lot of detail on this in our webinar series conducted through your VSS in December 25, 26, and 27. I encourage all of you to look at those webinars that are available on YouTube. The point here is the ever-present role of the connectors, that is the connection of I, the individual, and the rest of the universe is established through these ever-present connectors and evidence through tranquility, turbulence, and inertia. In fact, chapter 12 and chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, in my opinion, is the best analytical example of how to understand these gunas. And chapter 12 describes if you practice understanding and implication of this guna, management of these gunas, where does it end up, and the qualities that you gain in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. Let's use some practical example to relate to it. For example, we always put a lamp in front of a god or a candle and we worship. Now in this, the lamp by itself is stable, inertial. By the way, inertia, turbulence, and tranquility as a personal aspect may have some connotations. For example, I don't want to be ignorant and so I don't want to be inertial. I don't want to be turbulent because I don't want to be so much biased. I do want to be tranquil. Well, that very preference of wanting one over the other reflects some degree of bias. But we won't get into that right now. But when it comes to material objects, other than the human being, there's no distinction between tranquility, turbulence, or inertia. For example, a material object like a lamp is inertial. The oil in that is volatile. And the wick is the one that is transformative or tranquil. Together, they create the flame, and the flame creates the illumination. The illumination, I cannot give it to you in hand. We cannot put it in any way other than by seeing it. And enabled by that, we see the lamp and everything around it, which we can think of as Brahman. So whenever we pray in front of the Lord, we remember the fundamental principles of Vedic philosophy by looking at an object like the lamp. Now, there are several slides in this presentation where each slide I could take or we could take for a whole presentation. This is one such slide, so I will not belabor on this quite in depth, other than to say, like we were saying, consciousness or the enabler gets connected with the enabled our brain, through which we function through body, mind, and intellect, and hence respond to the world outside or the world of surface waves through tranquility, turbulence, and inertia. Now, how do I know whether I'm tranquil or turbulent or inertia will depend upon my level of objectivity in looking at the evidences presented to me. I'll come to that in a moment. But the result of which can be, if the knowledge is dominant, I'm tranquil, and the bias is dominant, I'm turbulent, and ignorance is dominant, I'm inertial. Let me take one example for the one line, and then we'll leave the rest for further discussion or self-study. Let us use the word self-compassion, because self-compassion is a very important need today, especially in the world where through social media, we become self-selected, we become isolated, we get bombarded with information, and negative information, for whatever reason, tends to spread faster and have more impact than positive information. And this world, self-compassion is extremely important. For someone who doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on, where ignorance is dominant, self-compassion leads to self-pity. On the other hand, when someone has got a little bit of understanding, but not sure, because they're so much driven by, I want to be compassionate, I want to take care of myself, I want to look good, I want to feel good, I want to say the right thing, I don't want to say anything different, I don't want to come across as, or I want to look so good that I want to be appreciated. Whichever way it goes, there's a constant comparison as a way to focus on one's needs. That becomes turbulent or Rajas. And that very need to satisfy one's needs leads to more and more actions which do not satisfy the needs, and hence we have more grief, more sorrow, more anxiety, occasionally little happiness, and so forth. On the other hand, when the knowledge is truly dominant, thereby I really know that everything is governed by laws of nature or the phenomena of nature or Sarvam Brahmamaya. Yes, I see something happening, something is not happening to me as well as to everybody around me, to my body as well as all objects around me. As a result, I try to understand as much as I can and cope with it or seek knowledge where I need to. But at the same time, I'm not going to let myself down because what I don't know, I'm willing to accept. That degree of equanimity that comes out of better knowledge leads to a self-compassion, which leads us to become more compassionate to others. So every one of these sentences rows can be used as a way to understand one's psychological situation. They can also be used to help others to understand their psychological situation, and collectively between the two of us within a family, husband and wife, parent and child, or teacher and student, or group of people in a project, any number of ways. So that's a profound value of Vedic philosophy to use this knowledge of bias and ignorance, or what I call as a connector science. So this connector science is a core capability for all professionals in any field of activity. Again, we can spend more time on that. Maybe we have another webinar on Vedanta and professional life. We can cover more into that. Also, we talk about Socratic method. It's a very basis of legal profession. But Socratic process requires a judge and then a plaintiff and a defendant. On the other hand, a Socratic process applied with each one of us serving as our own judge or as an objective and unattached observer can lead through these signals, and how to manage that can be as effective, perhaps more effective, and as a complement to the Socratic process. Now, the third axiom so first axiom is that everything is enabled by Brahman. Second axiom is everything in the cognitive space is enabled through our connectors and how we manage them. And the third axiom is the incognitive enabler and the cognitive enabled coexist like two sides of a coin. I am Brahma is one side of the coin. I am a product of experiences with the other side of the coin. So this is kind of pictorially shown in this picture. This is also what you see in so many symbolisms in Vedic philosophy or Veda Vangmaya. For example, when we pray to Lord Dakshinamurti, we see Chinmudra as an example. Here we have the thumb, which is the Brahman, all enabling, ever present, omnipresent, universal enabler of the entire universe, and forefinger, which is really my own individual soul consciousness. When the two come together, that is one side of the Chinmudra. The other side of the Chinmudra is a cognitive space of body, mind, and intellect, knowledge, bias, and ignorance, past, present, and future, earth, heaven, hell. Any number of combinations you can think of that related that you can see. That cognitive space coexists with the subtle or the enabler. And that's what we see whenever we pray to Lord Dakshinamurti. So in that state of mind, we stand in front of the God, reflecting on the universe and the brilliance of the way it exists. And we being part of that, and we lose ourselves for a moment. And that is a meditation or a prayer through which we come out and say, Sarvadeva Namaskaram Kesavam Pradigachati. Then we go to the next aspect. Now let's look a little bit more in a granular way. Okay, Subbu, all these things make sense in a big picture way. How does it apply to us on a daily life, even more basic level? So I have put a stool here with 3 legs of a stool. By the way, a stool cannot be balanced without all the 3 legs being stable. Same is true for the 3 things we are going to talk about in our life. For example, in real life, we have economic well-being, social well-being, and spiritual well-being. But it's very clear, and we can think about it a little bit more, and we seek well-being in all 3 of them. Most of the time, we are focused on economic well-being, and there's nothing wrong about that. And we sometimes focus on social well-being, such as my family, my children, my community, my country, my nation, so forth. It's also okay. And occasionally we rise up all of them and to think of the universal well-being. That is Sarve Janas Sukhino Bhavantu. Now, that being the 3 spheres or 3 legs of the stool, which you call life, we come to it from 3 different angles, which is equally important. For example, as soon as a child is born, the child cries. And when the child starts crying, mother provides the food. And as soon as the baby gets the milk, mother and child bonding happens. And since then, there is a my mother, my father, my home, my toys, my birthday. It continues to grow, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's the way things happen. Even a plant will grow that way, an animal will grow that way, so on and so forth. But then become my books, my thought, my religion, my country, so on and so forth. That's where we have to check ourselves. Is it only my book or is it only my home? Then we begin to say, no, it is our home, it's our book, our religion. Even then, it's only our religion. We begin to say, it's only our country. Is it the planet, our planet? No, it's okay, it belongs to everybody. Now, is the planet itself, Earth, is it only our planet or is part of the cosmic system? Oh, yeah, it is part of the entire, your cosmos in a larger sense. So mind begins to expand from mind to our universal. All of these things are part of the cognitive space of the waves of the surface of the ocean. Now, where does all this come from? This is what Swami Chinmayananda uses very often. This comes from our mind, through our thoughts and ideas, through our emotions, and through our perceptions. And understanding and managing that is what we talked about as mind over matter. And what Vedic philosophy says is, we can further subdivide it into the material object, living object, which is a physical space, emotional, which is emotional human being, an analytical, objective person, and the spiritual outlook or universal existence, which leads us to implicitly understand and accept Aham Brahma or Prajnanam Brahma. So you see, we have to learn to understand that spirituality in practice comes to us naturally when we try to balance all 3 legs of this stool. So how do I do that? Here is a world of activities, the surface waves on the top of the ocean. And here I could say, I perceive, I feel, I think. Instead of saying, I could say, what is said that is perceived? What is said that is felt? What is said that is thought of? In other words, there's a separation being created between the cognitive and I, the inner person, the Dehinam. That process of separation, that process of self-reflection is the beginning of the yoga. In fact, in all aspects of life, we tend, as soon as somebody says something, we tend to finish the sentence. Instead of listening to the sentence, giving a moment of pause, and then responding that moment of pause is a self-control or yoga. And in doing that, we know the signals are coming through knowledge, bias, and ignorance. We also know that they are not always equal, like the 3 wires in an electrical circuit, and we try to balance them. They establish their own balance. But what is that balance that precisely there? How do I know? Other than the reaction and effects, I could also think about it and say, as a judge, by the way, is neutral to all evidences, and he or she renders verdict only based on what exists and not based on opinions. In other words, we look at manage the equilibrium between I and the it. This managing the equilibrium between the way I see it versus the way it is. In other words, we become a judge and not judgmental. This is what we practice through Karma Yoga in actions, Bhakti Yoga through faith or Jnana Yoga through reasoning and analysis. Now, okay, if it is true, what is the problem? The only problem is inherent in all the analysis of anything cognitive is a trade-off that we have to manage. For example, if you are riding a bicycle, you can never be precisely on the balance. You're always moving to the one side or the other, but you try to be as close to the center as you can. That ability to be as close to the center as you can, by weighing the effects of bias versus ignorance versus knowledge, is one aspect of yoga. And that fulcrum at the balancing point is through self-control, reflection, or through knowledge, bias, and ignorance, and being objective and unattached. The second is attachment versus non-attachment, karma palatya. This also sounds very practical and not practical, difficult to practice. But if you really think about it, we pick up a bicycle at any time we want, put it away whenever we don't want, and we use it. But once we have purpose met, we move on to something else. We have absolutely no problem leaving a bicycle on the side and moving on. Same thing with driving a car. Or we can think of the same thing about our own body or our own life. That is, yeah, we are living for the moment or for a lifetime, but the life-giving forces exist in it as long as it is active. But once that separation is gone, that life-giving forces put aside this bicycle and moves on to something else. What something else? We may or may not know. Some may have some theories, but for our practical purposes, we simply say non-attachment is not an abstract thing. Of course, it's described as karma palatyagam. For example, when you're riding a bicycle, we are pedaling, but we never see the sprocket or the gear and the behind us to where the power force is being transmitted, which is propelling the bicycle forward. Because we are willing to believe, and we know by experience that by applying the force to the pedal, the force is being transmitted to the gear, and hence the vehicle moves forward or the bicycle moves forward. It is a matter of mind over matter. So karmapala tyagam or non-attachment is nothing more than mind over matter, like we talked about earlier. Ramakrishna Swami Paramahamsa says, I am the machine, you the Lord or the operator, and that is the true knowledge. Now, this is one more of those slides where you could take just one slide for the whole webinar. But what are the evidences of doing something like that? Bhagavad Gita is so many examples in so many chapters, which can be summarized as living in a way with total self-control, which means through objectivity and non-attachment and active engagement. Let us take one example. For example, one who is not agitated by others nor causes agitation in others. This is an evidence of an enlightened person and evidence of a person practicing spirituality and practice. Why would I get agitated by others? By the way, by saying these things does not mean I live like this all the time, nor should we ever expect any one of the speakers on any subject to live 100% to what they're speaking about, because that will be a bias. That will be Rajasa. On the other hand, we can explain it, we can try to practice it as best as we can, and from that perspective, let me explain what I'm trying to say. One who is not agitated, why would I be agitated? Because there is some attachment to it, thinking that I've got some value or some expectation that you're going to say something nice about me, or something bad about me that I already know I have done wrong, but I don't want to hear it. So in other words, only because of my attachment to something that I feel a sense of fear and hence a potential for agitation. But if I'm truthfully objective about what I know and what others know, then that knowledge itself allows me to remain calm and quiet, irrespective of what others tell me. In fact, I use that as additional information to further process my knowledge and move forward. But by the same token, an enlightened person does not agitate others. How does it happen? I know something that I think you don't know, or maybe you know, but you're not telling me for some reason. So in starting out by saying, you fool, you don't know this, here it is, which is a judgmental being judgmental, I could be a judge and simply state that under these circumstances, this appears to be the case. What do you think? Then by very nature, the other person will say, yeah, I knew that, but I could not say this for this reason. The collective knowledge increases and the absence of agitation becomes the way of life. This is just one example. Every one of these sentences in the book from Bhagavad Gita can be used as an application in every moment in our daily life. More of that here. Now, we can also think of the ashramas, brahmacharyam, grahastham, vanaprastham, sannyasam. Yes, it is true that they're described as 4 levels at 4 times in our lifetime from beginning to end. But you could also think of it in a micro way, because an analytical person as a technologist, I look for application of that as much as I can, being truthful to the principle that it's behind. For example, in brahmacharya, the idea is to learn. In any activity, whatever it is, in fact, a true researcher will start with literature survey. That is brahmacharya. And then you apply the knowledge that you have learned and to experiment with it. And that's engagement. That could be grahastham. Once you've done something, you're getting something out of it, you're applying it, and you transfer it to more and more people. And as you do that, you move away, more and more away from the center of action, which is could be vanaprastham. And finally, the intended objective has been met as best as it can be true to the prevailing force of nature. And then we withdraw from that and move on to the next goal or next level of activity. That could also be thought of as liberation or sannyasa. If we look at every one of us listening to this seminar, especially those who have retired and moving on to other things, you can relate to this. We're all doing something. We engaged in, learned something, we did something, then we delegated to someone else, we moved on, and now we are into something else. We're again in the brahmacharya phase, and so on and so forth. So that provides a more practical relevance for especially those who are thinking of this only as theoretical or conceptual or old literature. It is not. It's vibrant with application and relevance here and now. Another example I like to give, this is forgiveness versus repentance. Like we said, everything is connected with the knowledge, bias, and ignorance, and the dominance of one over the other, leading to tranquility, turbulence, or inertia. Same thing with forgiveness. Same thing with repentance. So when the knowledge pertaining to forgiveness is enhanced, when the knowledge pertaining to repentance is enhanced, there's a genuine happiness, inner peace, collaboration, and harmony. Such an understanding fosters meaningful connection through transformative power of compassion and empathy, and it nurtures harmonious relationships. We acknowledge and accept our shortcomings through truthful understanding of what forgiveness and repentance means. We seek forgiveness for them from others, but also from within oneself. Because as we grow older, one of the biggest problems people face is a feeling of being let down, a feeling of negative thoughts. Oh, I could have been like this, or I could have done this, or some degree of dissatisfaction. And that is the biggest mental health challenge, especially in the older age population. But seeking forgiveness for them from others and as well as within oneself through true understanding of what one's life has been makes life more energetic, more fresh, more effervescent for all those around them and for all those to follow. So repentance and forgiveness create a culture of peace, harmony, and understanding. The interplay of repentance and forgiveness can help us achieve a state of harmony and transcendence that's essential for personal growth and collective well-being. In fact, if you think about it more a little deep, entire Christianity is based on this fundamental principle of repentance and forgiveness. Now let's spend a little bit of time on yoga and meditation. Again, there are 3 levels of yoga and meditation. The first is focused attention, which is where we focus on our breathing, we focus on some activity like yoga or some form of prayer, some different way of controlling our mind such that our mind does not wander in the waves of turbulence, or what you call the perturbations of life. Once you've got the mind under control, then we let the mind free and open, not connected to anything, but accepting and everything. And that open mind leads to what's called love and kindness to all, which is where the thought of Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu takes true meaning. Experiencing the self in all that exists and envisioning all that exists in the self, one attains the highest, the Brahman, and not by any other means, according to Kaivalya Upanishad. So in other words, through meditation and yoga, you all understand who you are somebody, but who can also make anybody feel like somebody. In fact, if you reflect upon the Buddhism, the entire concept of Buddhism is based on this thought of yoga and meditation, which is total self-control and unattached active engagement, which is the core principle of Bhagavad Gita. So to summarize our presentation, there are 2 axioms of Vedic philosophy we talked about. Again, I'm sorry I've been going through a little fast, but I wanted to stay within the time. We'll take any questions after this. Let us continue with the summary now. The first axiom is the enabler is one and same for all the diversity that we see as enabled. The creator and creation coexist like the deep ocean and the waves on its surface. This is what we can understand from the 4 Veda Mahavakyas. Our connections as I, the individual, and the rest, the universe, is established through ever-present connectors and their equilibrium states, which we call the guna. Guna in Sanskrit literally means rope or connectors. Managing these connectors with objectivity and non-attachment is cognitive behavior management, essential for any psychologically well-developed behavior of all of us in any aspect of life. It's also complement to the Socratic process. Consciousness enables our perception, feel the emotions, think of thoughts, and our ability to look from outside in. This enabler is Brahman. That's why we have the Mahavakya Prajnanam Brahma. Like the deep ocean and the waves on its surface, the creator, the consciousness, and the creation, the cognitive universe, are always together coexisting. This is very important to understand. No time does anyone needs to feel that we are alone. We are all Amritasya Putraha. We are all children of immortality. And that by itself is an uplifting, powerful message to our own life and the message we can give to everyone around us. And that's the beauty and joy of Vedanta in daily life, I believe. Looking from outside, observing the interaction of mind over matter is yoga. This external view of life requires two key elements. Before that, I would like to say to many young people, when they got a problem, I simply tell them, okay, take this problem and describe it as if it belongs to someone else. Supposing Subbu comes with a problem, say this is not Subbu's problem, but Prasad Rao's problem, or Prabhakar Rao's problem, or Dr. Babu's problem. How will you look at that? As soon as you externalize it and put it that way, the very person who came with the problem is also able to offer solutions which are precisely correct for the moment. And that ability to observe from outside require that externalizing allows us, and it's made possible through objectivity, that is equal regard for all evidences, and non-attachment, not being fixated on the outcome. Being spiritual is being one with the driving force or nature. It is not a favor to any or anything. It is just understanding our true very nature. By the way, to be spiritual, all exist in spiritual state, governed by the Brahman, laws of nature, implicitly and without distinction. The very notion of being spiritual arises to us as human beings, thanks to our well-developed mind. It's a blessing if we use it that way. Even this applies only for 2 of our 5 layers, the emotional layer and the analytical layer. As a material layer, the living layer, and also the Anandamaya or the Brahman layer or the layer of force of nature, it's already, they're already in spiritual. They're already in union with the force of nature. We don't have to even try. We train ourselves to be spiritual only in the other 2 layers. We have discussed a few practical examples for practice of such spirituality in daily life. I think I will end my presentation here. Dr. Babu was kind enough to mention about my book. It is shown as a picture here. The QR code for this is here. After the presentation, you can take the QR code and access the book. It's not available in India in hard print, but it's available in electronic form, like a Kindle copy. Let me end this presentation by chanting Om Tat Sat Brahma Pranamastu. May everyone and everything exist through and as evidence of total self-control and unattached active engagement. Hari Om. Thank you very much. I'll stop my presentation at this time.
ఓకే ధన్యవాదములండి సుబ్రహ్మణ్యం గారు.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the beautiful lecture. There are a few questions in the chat box. Should I read them out?
Please.
Okay. Are we supposed to follow only one method of meditation out of the several methods taught to us, like transcendental meditation, chakra meditation, vipassana meditation, etc.?
Actually, it does not matter what method. It is like saying, if I should learn physics, should I read only one book? You can read any book as long as you have an understanding of what the book is teaching you. So spend more time on the 3 principles that we talked about: focused attention, open mind, and love and kindness. See if it evolves in steps and over time. So for that process, any method with a proper teacher and proper training should be adequate.
Okay. What is meant by practical Vedanta? What is spirituality in practice? What is the...
I think that's what I was trying to explain for the last 45 minutes or so. Anyway, practical Vedanta is nothing more than, instead of simply saying Prajnanam Brahma and just understanding is one of the Mahavakyas and moving on, that is, would be a theoretical understanding of the subject. But what is Prajnanam? What is consciousness? How are we related to the rest of the world outside? We, who is we? Who am I? Yes, I'm a body. I'm a material object. I'm a living person. I'm an emotional person. I can also be an analytical person with reasoning and objectivity by being non-judgmental and by being objective rather than subjective. But who enables all of these things, or what enables all of these things? It's enabled by my being first alive. What makes me being alive? Breathing, body blood circulation, brain working, neural network working. Who enabled all of those things? We simply accept it as the way it is, enabled by force of nature or phenomena of nature. I can describe a few of them and say they are phenomena of nature, but that's only minimum. There are so many more. I'm sitting here means I'm enabled by gravitation. Even when I'm sitting, I'm moving at 1100 miles per hour because the earth is rotating at that speed. Who is rotating that earth? Why is that earth rotating only at that speed? And how is it staying in an orbit consistently with the sun? Why is the entire solar system moving? In fact, we are having solar flares now. Where does it all come from? So if you keep on asking these questions, at some point you have to say, all of them collectively is known as Brahman. That exists. And all of them collectively, as it pertains to me as an individual or us as human beings, we can call it consciousness. So that is Prajnanam Brahma. So you can understand all of these things in a practical way, and then use it so that when I say, don't disturb others and do not be disturbed by others, it is not just something you read and move on. Satyam vada, dharmam chara, and so on and so forth. Mata devo bhava, pitra devo bhava, acharya devo bhava. They're not just something we chant and move on. But when we see something, when I learn something from that, we show worship to that. And we show, because worship is a form of showing our respect to that source of learning. And that's how we apply that in daily life. That application of the Vedantic principles in daily life is what I have tried to explain as spirituality in practice.
Okay, thank you. Now, next question with the same participant. What is the difference between economic well-being and spiritual well-being?
Very good. But you missed the middle one in between called social well-being. So it's okay. So economic well-being is material wealth, physical, body, house, car, job, whatever jewel. In fact, tomorrow is Mother's Day. Hope you all will celebrate Mother's Day with your mother and give her a gift that she appreciates. All these things are material well-being. But when you give the gift to the mother, and because you thought of it's a good gift, and because your heart genuinely expressed a certain desire to show your affection to your mother, even it could be a small item, whatever it is, maybe a laddu from a sweet shop, or maybe something else that she, likes very much, and hence thought about it and bought it and gave it to her. And she felt a certain sense of joy. That joy which she feels, which in turn also is reflected as a joy inside of you, that cannot be described or characterized, but that can only be experienced. That is spiritual well-being. So material well-being is that which is tangible, physical, identifiable. Spiritual well-being is unique, that connects to our emotions and our intellect.
Okay. Kindly show the page showing mind over matter. What is question is not there, but he just asking. You can go back and see. Okay, sir. What is the significance of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhi Dhyasanam for a spiritual seeker?
Okay. I didn't quite understand the question, Dr. Babu Garu. Can you repeat that?
What is the significance of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhi Dhyasanam for a spiritual seeker?
Okay.
Shravanam,
Shravanam.
Mananam, Nidhichas.
Okay. Now, I must acknowledge, as Dr. Prabhakaran Garu knows, my Sanskrit knowledge language is limited. But as I understand it, Shravana means listening. Mananam means reflecting, and then the third will be an internalizing those scriptures to what it means, why it is that way, and applying it as best as we can. Prabhakar garu, can you add to that, please?
Yeah.
No, Shravanam, is what you told is correct, perfectly correct. A simple way it is hearing a good thing is Shravanam. And whatever you learnt now, repeating number of times in your mind and recollecting it and repeating it, trying to digest is Mananam. And once you digest it and putting in application is Nidhyasana.
Thank you.
And if one goes through Vivek Chudamani of Shankaracharya, it's the best way his explanations are given there for these three things.
Okay.
So
Yes,
simply
Krishnamurti
hearing, repeating, and digesting.
Is it Nidhyadhyasanam or Nityadhyasanam?
Nidhyasana.
Huh?
Nidhyasana.
Nidhi.
Nidhi.
It looks like Nitya.
No, not Itya. Nidhyasana.
Okay. Anybody? Krishnamurti garu? You want to ask a question? Or you want to say anything? Rajagopalan garu?
Just I would like to supplement the latest question somebody asked about Shravanam, Mananam, and Didyasanam. Actually, Shravanam generally goes that it is in Jnana Yoga. There are three specific exercises they call. They are Shravanam, Mananam, and Didyasanam. The Shravanam means consistently listening to teachers. 6-fold clues that are used to extract the core teaching of the Vedanta. The 6-fold clues are six pramanas, or the correct means of accurate knowledge. That is what the Shravanam means. We have to hear and then teaching. Mananam means it comes from the manual, the meaning to reflect actually. In Vedantic context, it means to reflect using logic to understand the import of the Mahakavyas, how best we can use it. That is Mananam, Abhyasam also sometimes you call, but at the same time, the implicit meaning is like that. And then the Nidhyasanam, what they call the process by which intellectual conscience is transformed into a vital one. There is stillness, a calm in which the soul lays itself open to the divine. So here the third one, Nidhyasana, basically it is a process. Whereas the second one goes as Abhyasa, the first one as a learning. So the ultimate truth is that the intellectual conscience has to be transformed into a vital one, where there is a stillness, a calm, or in which the soul lays itself open to the divine. That is how these three things have been broadly explained in our Vedic Vedanta. Can go elaborate later, but it itself is a subject by itself, all these things. Thank you.
What I find is the Vedanta has been so much Madhana was done by lakhs and lakhs of people in last 1,000 years. And the explanations are becoming more and more complicated than actually what is given in the basic Vedanta, basic books. So if you read Gita as a Gita book, just like a Gita press book with a Gita press small meanings, it gives the complete idea of Gita. And if you read Sankara Bhashyam of Shankaracharya with explanations of Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, this thing, that thing, and giving explanation this side, that side, going so many examples, it's more and more and more and more complicated. And for a common man of present generation, who doesn't know even, who doesn't even keep the book itself, Bhagavad Gita book itself in his house, how to approach him, how to divert him. That is my worry. The Veda Samskruti Samiti's worry is not the intellectual strata of the people. To make the intellectuals, to make them intellectuals, that is the worry of Veda Samskruti. Who doesn't even know the Bhagavad Gita books correctly, who did not even read the book correctly. So how to make them, divert them to this line? How to bring them to this line? How to divert their thinking towards this side with simple way of, and putting in their words. Keep the things in their way of thinking, it's a present way of thinking, and bring them back to this platform of Vedanta, of our philosophy. If you start Vedanta philosophy itself, they are getting scared and going away. They are coming near at all. So, what we have to do is make it more and more simpler towards the present generation's aptitude and thinking and philosophy. I don't belittle the greatness of the Vedanta or Vedanta explanations or bhashyas. They're all great. I'm not belittling them. And that one is it the correct one to divert or educate the present generation or future generations or present generation, younger generation of college students? Or is it the correct way of putting the things in their mind? In that way we should put them? Or are we, in my experience, even the 50 years, 60 years people also do not know correctly these things in the present generations. Except 1 in 100, 1 in 100 like that people know. But when I go to common people, because I know Sanskritam, people who come for Sanskritam learning, while I tell a simple things also they are getting excited. Oh, this is so great. So that shows their basic capacity of understanding of the Vedanta. Some people even do not know many things, many simple things. So what I don't know whether I'm conveying correctly what I wanted to convey to all the people. That our what is our target now? What is our work now? Our work is now to change the direction of the youth and give a correct basics to the future youth. That is my target. Now the 40 years, 50 years people, give them the direction to guide the people in future. 20 years, 30 years people, give them a correct philosophy to understand the modern terms and create the books that can be understood by the convent educated kids to come back to our philosophical thinking. This is the requirement of the presentation, and create the solutions for the complicated issues of Dharma Shastras and Sampradayas and Sadacharas. The solutions for those which are not being practically can be done now. The Sadachara practices that are being followed by the older generations, previous generations. If you say they are the guidelines for you to lead your life today, in the present circumstances of living, they cannot do it. So in the present circumstances of living, how to divert that flow of thinking towards this side. See, the Ganga river in Patna was going day by day with silt accumulation in Patna, going away from the people, away from the city. It went away from the city. So people who have got the customs of taking bath and doing Pinda Pradhana at Ganga, they were walking all the while and going to that place and taking all the troubles and doing it. Some people could not stop doing it. So whatever, a great gentleman, one judge probably, Narasimha Reddy Garu, somebody is there now who knows to us. He was there, the Patna High Court judge. What he did was, he called the dredging corporation people and tried to divert that distant Ganga towards Ganga, Patna itself. That is a practical way of making the things people follow towards the customs that were being generations were used to do it. So what he did was, he called the dredging corporation people, dredge out the nearby line towards city. So he did that. They did that, and people could easily do their exercises or spiritual these things very easily. So in that way, when we are explaining our systems to these things, for example, when I say a droplet on the lotus leaf is the life, that is the life. If you talk about the Trikarana Suddhi, what are the 4 important things of Trikarana Suddhi? Planning, communication, implementation, and quality control. Trikarana Suddhi. 3 Karanas are planning, communication, and implementation, and Suddhi is the quality control. And this is the main target of any project or any company or any factory. So somebody's question was, what is the spirituality in practice? When you see a lamp, Sar has explained very clearly the tranquility, turbulence, and third one is
Inertia.
Inertia. It is true. It is very, you see, the moment you see lamp, you have to see the light. You see the light, right? So the light, what it indicates to you, what that oil indicates to you, what that inertia or that base indicates to you, how you convert yourself, how you convert your thinking into those lines of avoiding inertia. Can you avoid inertia? No. Because any human's life is linked with sattva, rajas, tamo gunas. If sattva, rajas, tamo gunas are not there, your life is not there at all. First point. You have taken a birth means they are sattva, rajas, tamo gunas. The prakriti is sattva, rajas, tamo gunas. You have got a karma means the karma is linked with these 3 gunas. Without these 3 gunas, your karma is not there at all. When once you are taking a prarabdha karma is being given with sattva, rajas, tamo gunas only. But how much sattvam, how much rajas, how much tamas? That is the level of elevation of a person. If sattva is more, that person is more towards becoming Ramana Maharshi. So if I want to become a Ramana Maharshi, if I want to tell a Gnanam to the people, Vijnanam to the people, if I say, this is the Gnanam, if I say that Atma and Anatma, Atma is Nityam and Anatma is Anityam, not Shashvatam. If we say that, that's simple, everybody knows this. It's very simple to be understood, is it not? They can easily understand. As long as Atma there, the Shariram is there. As long as the life is there, tree is there. When once the life goes away, the Chaitanyam goes away, tree becomes just a wood, log of wood, which can be absorbed in the earth. So similarly, as long as the Atma is there, as long as the Chaitanya is there in the body works. I'm talking, Chaitanyam is there because I'm talking. And this anybody can understand this easily. Any simple person also can understand this. If you say to him, but can he digest it? Does he do it? What is Gnanam? Doing it continuously without going back again to the Agnanam. That is the Gnanam. But anybody, all of us, are we able to do that? Can we do that? How many people in the world can do that way? Continuously being in the status of Gnana. You find Ramana Maharshi, or Shankaracharya, or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or Vivekananda, like that, 1 in crore. You don't find all the people like that. And you cannot make them also to be like that. It's not possible. It is the way of life. So what is this easy course for them? They have to be in the socialistic way of living, what he has told, the middle one. Lokopakara ardham. Start living and come step by step, come to that level of elimination of karma. And at one stage, one janma, you will reach that level of becoming Ramana Maharshi. But now thinking that I want to be a Jnani today and go on telling about Jnana only, leaving out the practical way of thinking, what is going purpose?
Okay.
I think
I expressed my anxiety in my mind in the August platform. Subramaniam and Rajagopalan, many great people are there here. I would like to expose my worry day and night, which I have before you all.
There is one question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Can spirituality be separated from religion or belief in Brahman? Can one be spiritual in Vedic sense without belief in Brahman?
Yeah, see, first of all, thank you, Prabhakar Rao Garu. You gave a brilliant explanation of the goal of the Veda Samskruti Samiti, and it's a very noble goal. It's a goal all of us should try to pursue in whatever way we can to now first learn for ourselves and apply that in daily life that uplifts our own life, and then extend that through our education and our way of living to others, like what you are doing and others are doing, so that it expands the community slowly but surely. And there is also Devikam. For example, people like Chinmayananda, Swami Chinmayananda, I remember seeing him in the very early on. He was nobody. He was just somebody trying to come give talks. Nobody. In fact, first lecture he gave in Chennai, he gave in a barn of a Muslim man. He gave the only one who gave a place. Nobody else would even give him a place to give a lecture. And there he was speaking as if he was speaking to 100 people. 2 other people from the local area went and listened to it and saw something, got very interested in him, took him to their house, and then slowly now Chinmaya Mission is all over the world trying to do the things. So sometimes these things happen, which is what you call Devika, the way it happens. So as long as the intention that you have is good, as long as the effort that you have is good, things will find their own path. How and when we don't know, that is karma palatyaga. Now, answering the question that was raised, is spirituality and religion one and the same? Actually, I would encourage the questioner and others to get an electronic copy of my book, because one chapter in that addresses exactly all these set of questions about spirituality. But answering it here, spirituality is a way of life. It's a way of thinking. Religion is a way of providing certain guidelines to that thinking process. So you are playing cricket, you can have a certain style of playing cricket where you're very good at playing with only fast bowlers. Then some other team may have very good with spin bowlers. Somebody may win the game only through batsmen and the skills. So each is a different method. But playing cricket is a goal and playing well is a goal. So unless in a cricket where winning is a goal, in spirituality, the goal is to play the game very well. So what I understand is called spirituality is to understand the way things work in nature and be respectful of that and conduct your life so that you are able to serve the waves that happens in your life called activities. Now, does it have to follow a prescribed religion? I don't think so. In fact, all religious leaders will say spirituality is a way of life, a way of thinking. Religion provides a certain pathway for that. Like all pathways lead to the same peak. Sarve Akashat Patitantoyam Yatagachati Sagaram Sarvadeva Namaskaram Kesavam Patigachati. All the different forms of religion, different forms of worship, as long as they're true to the principle of reaching the universal consciousness, the pathway is religion. The way you follow the pathway, how you carry a boat in that river, is spirituality. Now, the Brahman is a very unique term coined in the Vedic philosophy to describe all that is the enabler, which is self-evident truth, that nature exists enabled by an infinite collection of phenomena of nature whose description fit precisely with the description of Brahman. But I cannot simply go and say, this is Brahman, this is Brahman, this is Brahman. So the beauty and brilliance of Vedic philosophy is that they have coined a particular term, Brahman, to represent all of them. So whether you believe in Brahman or not is really your mind over matter, because it just exists. And they have coined a name called Brahman. Can I ask you, do you believe in life? Or you believe it or not, it's up to you, but life exists. So to answer your question, Brahman is a common noun representing the universe as a whole, an unique term used in Vedic philosophy or Vedanta. Religion is the pathway, spirituality is the journey. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. Okay. Now, shall we close, and then anybody wants to ask any other question? There are one or two people, they have unmuted themselves. Venkateswara Garu.
Guruji, I have written one question in the chat box. Can you read it?
It is not a question. Can you read it out?
Guruji, namaskar.
Is this from Vivek?
Yes, sir, it's on my side.
Okay. I'm not in a good mood from last 4 days since got information that Hindu population decreased by 8%, Muslim population increased by 43%. So now solution of this problem lies in religious unity or spiritual awakening. You know, it's a good question, but sometimes in management there is something called mission creep. That is, you handle things that you know, you handle things that you don't know, and wisdom is to stay away from what you don't know. So these are very fervent questions. I surely believe that it appeals to you and bothers you a lot. It has its own impact on me. However, I would leave that for discussion in another topic in another forum, if that's okay with you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. There are 2-3 people unmuted themselves. Is it by accidental or you want to talk? Venkateswara Rao and then Krishnamurti Garu. Venkateswara Garu. Mute yourself otherwise.
Vivek ji, the question of Vivek ji, I will just answer 1 minute for Vivek ji question. The question is not only, it is a threefold, it is answered in number 2-3 times in our platforms. It is not a one-fold solution for this. The solution is in education level, the solution is government level, the solution is at society's level of ours, like that. These are the 3 solutions that are to be tackled to come out of this dogma and to come out of this fear. It will come out of this condition of the country. Unless these three agencies are been properly, thoroughly screened and thoroughly washed and redone, this cannot be changed. For that purpose, a real dedicated person is required at the top level, who is self-conscious of dharma as a who practices it and who follows it, who preaches it and who implements it. So Trikarana Suddhi, with the Trikarana Suddhi Kala, the person who has got Trikarana Suddhi at top level, understanding the Satyamvada and Dharmanchara, a person is there, then only this can be done. Fortunately, we have last 10 years, some sort of indications are being seen, though 100% we are not sure still. Their indications are seen. Is it possible to continue this strata of last 10 years for another 25 years or 30 years to make it more and more dharmic way of living in the country? That is the question. So will that give the solution? Will we divert this condition of 8%, 43% to at least that thing? Or otherwise is whether the thinking of Vasudhaiva Kutumbam can be adopted by other people also. So these are the questions that are there. It's not just easily cannot be answered, those things.
Okay, P.S. Murthy garu.
Good evening, sir, to all my friends. Abhinandanlu. Dr. Subbu garu, you made an excellent, I don't say attempt, excellent narration of Vedanta and Vedas and spirituality, how it can be related. And it is absolutely, you have taken a new view of synchronizing it with the science and technology. Even information technology aspects also, you pulled in and tried to explain. So that's really great. Normally when others do the Vedanta, if somebody takes all these four Mahavakyas, they relate only in Vedanta way and spiritual manner and what the Upanishads are told. But you have taken a different angle totally, and a divergent view has emanated from your thinking process. Very nice, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is correct. I tell everybody, this book, what is spiritual, that book, what is suggested, this one, spirituality in practice. This book definitely is answering this. You have done a great job in this book. I suggest everybody to read this. It gives modern way of explaining the Vedanta into the practical way of life. I am reading this now. I am on the way to read.
Thank you, Murthy garu, and thank you, Prabhakar garu. Really appreciate it. Dhanyawad.
Okay, let us close now. Govind Raj garu, can you chant Prarthana?
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सदनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान्मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु स्वस्ति
ధన్యవాదములండి. Now let us go for జనగణమన. కృష్ణ కుమార్ గారు. Are you muted or what? Okay. Unmute yourself.
सर जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय हिंद.
Jai Hind, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram.
ఓకే, అందరికీ ధన్యవాదములు.